Shelby. I'm Chair of the Finance Committee, and I want to welcome everyone to this evening's Finance Committee meeting. We're located at the Village of Broadview Chambers at 2350 South 25th Avenue in Broadview. Tonight, we will be reviewing the proposed fiscal year 2025 and 2026 budget. Our Finance Director, Mr. Hood, will present an overview of the budget, including key priorities and departmental needs for the upcoming fiscal year. At this time, I would like to ask Mayor Katrina Thompson to begin by walking us through the budget and development process and providing context on how we arrived at the proposal before us. Afterwards, she will turn it over to Director Hood and the respective department heads for further explanation and detail. Please know that all questions and comments will be addressed following the full presentation of the proposed budget. We appreciate your attentiveness and engagement as we work collaboratively to ensure fiscal responsibility and strategic investments in the future of Broadview. Thank you. I'd like to call the meeting to order and do a roll call. Trustee Abraham.
Here.
Trustee Senior.
Here.
Director Hood.
Here.
And Jari Shelby here. Okay, can we do Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can we take a moment of silence, of reflection, please? Okay, thank you. Now I'd like Mayor Katrina Thompson.
Thank you, Trustee Shelby and the Board of Trustees of the Finance Committee, Director Hood, and all of the department heads. So I will say, as we go through our fiscal 25-26 proposed budget, I'm happy that we can all work together collaborative to get to the number where we need to be to keep the village moving forward. So the process is real simple for us. We start probably late January, where the department heads with their teams get together as a department to come up with the budget. From that, they start scheduling meetings with the finance director to have the discussion with him on the things that they need, things that they don't need, and they go back and forth for a couple of weeks on what that looked like as he's preparing the budget for the Board of Trustees. Once we get through all of the departments with all of the needs, wants, and all of the possibilities, and then we have a meeting with, then all of the department heads have a meeting with me. We just had that meeting last Saturday, and typically what happens on that day is that we don't leave until we have a budget. And so the last Saturday we met, we was there from 8 a.m. to about 4:15 or so, just going back and forth. But this is a time for us to work with the other leaders in the other departments to say, you know, can I live without this year? What can we do this year and get us to where we need to be? Municipal financing is a very complicated system to begin with because we deal with so many different funds. And Director Hood will go through some of those funds, accounts, and what that looked like for the Village of Broadview. When we look at our budget overall, I'm really excited about the budget because it shows that we've been fiscal responsible over not just this year, but over a course of years on how we prepare our budget for the departments on what the greatest needs are for the residents and our business stakeholders. So we'll go through that at a high level discussion with Director Hood. We welcome public feedback because our budget will be on public display for the next 10 days. So if it's something in the budget, you have a question, you can always call Director Hood to get your questions answered. The budget will be on file in the clerk's office as well. Copies will be available at the cashier where you can pick up a copy for transparency as it relates to us being fiscal responsible. And I just think I'll just go ahead and just turn it over to Director Hood, but if anyone have any questions of me, I'm happy to address any questions or concerns that the public may have. And we are streaming live, so those that's watching us online, if you have any comments that or any questions you may have, just put it in the chat. We'll be able to address your questions or comments based off the chat that we have, or if something come up after the meeting, you always can reach out to us to get a question answered, especially as it relates to the couple of things I want to point out in this budget, that we were able to still continue to keep our summer youth program in place with the 20 young people that come on board that work with us every summer. And the other thing is, due to the uncertainty of where we are in America with how we look at funding at a federal level, that trickle down to a state level, we've been very mindful in this fiscal year on what that looked like for a period of uncertainty. And it was a reflection of, for me, how we came out of COVID. And so we're gonna still manage our budget like we are in an uncertainty. And for us in the Village of Broadview with the department heads, it's important that we always participate, like what is human capital and what that means to the Village of Broadview. And human capital is us having bodies in place that can provide the excellent services that we've been displaying to you all for a very long time, and we don't want that to go away. So in this budget, we're able to give up to 3.4% raises across the board for our non-union employees, and those raises across the board for those that's in unions. And we're excited about that we're able to do that. But as we go through this process, we will continue to be fiscal responsible, managing the month-to-month or on a quarterly basis on what that look like and where we are. And some of our largest purchases that we have to purchase, I think, in Public Works, it just makes sense to buy this equipment. That it's a great expense. I think it's about $200,000, but it allows us to not have to get contractors to come dig when we can do the digging, because we have a talented Public Works department that's very capable of doing that work, which will save us money. So we have to make investments into not only our teams, but into equipment that we need to be effective and efficient on how we deliver services in the community. So without further ado, if it's something else that come up, I'll make sure that I'll address it. But again, if you have any questions, those that's viewing online, don't hesitate to put it in the chat, and we'll address your questions as we get them in. Thank you. Thank you, Trustee Shelby.
You're welcome, Mayor. Okay, we'd like to turn it over to Director Tom Wood.
Thank you very much. Welcome, everybody. Glad you all got to come out tonight and take in all this information. I'm going to start off by just hitting some of the highlights that are in this budget, that when people ask you, what are you doing with the money? This is what's been happening in this year in our budget cycle. We've had a significant increase in property tax and sales tax revenue. That's where we're getting money to do some of this stuff. It was through that increase. But I also want to say that's been partially offset by intergovernmental revenues, specifically the personal property tax, property replacement tax has went down significantly. But still, overall, we've maintained, and our revenues are going to be okay. As the mayor alluded to, we're taking care of our employees. Our union employees, through their collective bargaining agreements, are getting a 4% increase. The non-union employees are getting a 3.4% increase. And I just always wanted to point out, that's not really across the board. There's a performance factor in there too. So the department head has the ability to adjust it depending on a performance, but 3.4 is the cap, it's the most you can give them. Our healthcare costs have increased 3.4% this year, which is going back to a trend that used to be. Thank God it didn't go back up to 10 or 12% like it was at one point. So 3.4 is manageable. If the CPI is also 3.4, we're kind of maintaining, because the CPI is driving the property tax receipts increase, and it's kind of helps offset the increase in health care costs. Our other insurances, which is workman's comp, general liability, another, I can't remember the third one, has increased about 1% over last year. And the other thing that is very nice in this budget is our grant revenue is continuing. So some of the grants that we've gotten were multi-year. So we are still getting money coming in to support some of the things that are in our budget that we normally wouldn't be able to do. And the ones that I just wanted to point out right away was, we are developing a composting program for the village. It's being rolled out as we speak. The village is creating an energy plan that's looking long-term, what to do with the village infrastructure as it relates to energy. And we're also using our grants to go after some renewable energy options. The one that everybody's familiar with is charging stations, EV charging stations. Other grant revenue that I didn't list is helping us put in parking lots. It's buying equipment for the police department, fire department. There's a lot of small grants in addition to the bigger grants that we have. So that extra grant revenue is letting us expand what we do for the village. And then also in here, I put this in here because every year someone asks. Right now, the public works projects that are included in this grant is the rebuild of 21st Avenue. And I also would like to say that also has a grant. It's a 80-20 sharing grant with Cook County. So we have to put some money into it, but Cook County is picking up most of the cost of that project. We're doing some parking lot improvements. I mentioned we have a grant that is allowing us to turn that empty lot on Lexington and 17th into another village parking lot. We don't have a grant for this, but we have to participate in the state's rebuilding of Cermak Avenue. There are certain intersections that will be done in the process of, by the state's contractors doing it. We have to pay for that work. We also have some water main replacements scheduled, and probably one of the most important things here is we're testing a product, a water lining product, and this is related to our lead service removal and replacement program. We're seeing if this works, because it would be a much cheaper way to do it than to actually dig up all the pipes. It could save us tens of millions of dollars, but we don't want to really be the first person to try it. So we're going to give it a try, do a block, see what happens, and if it is a viable solution, it could save us a lot of money going down the road here. Okay, so I am going to give you guys an overview of all the funds. Dave, I made it smaller, and now I can't read it. Can you guys see the numbers okay up there? No. Let's see if we can do this. How many people are there? 1, 2, 3. All right, well, I'll speak, because I think if I get up here, you guys will end up watching me for 5 minutes trying to change this font. So the general fund is going to have total revenues of over $21 million and total expenditures of about $20.6 million, which means after operations for the year, our revenues will exceed our expenses by about $359,956. I'll just call that $400,000 to round up. And what that is money that will be added to our fund balance. So we can either invest it, hold it in a cash account, whatever. The other thing that's happening in this period is we are transferring $935,000 out of the general fund to do some other projects. Some of them are capital-related projects. We're buying replacing our ambulance and the power cot system with it. So the net effect on the fund itself will be going down by $575, but that's because we have been saving money in the prior years. We save all our GMAT money in a special account. Now when the ambulance comes along, we have to spend close to $500,000. We take our savings out of there, put it into the capital fund, and we buy our ambulance. So even though you see that negative number, it really represents we've been able to save money and buy the equipment we need without borrowing money to get it. And when we save money, we earn the interest, we don't pay it. The garbage fund is pretty self-explanatory. working on a break-even, working in a break-even mode right now. The expenses and revenues are roughly equal. IMRF has a healthy fund balance. We're not going to transfer any new money into it and use some of the money that's actually sitting in it. Motor tax, fuel, the MFT account, we have no projects listed this year. And just so that you guys know, what we've done in the past is each year we get a portion every month of the motor fuel tax that the state collects, and it goes into a separate bank account. When that bank account builds up, we then use that to do a project. So over the last couple of years, we've been doing projects out of there. Now, now it's balance is down to about 300,000. We're going to get another 300,000 in new taxes, and then maybe the next year we get another 300. Then we got enough money to start doing a street project. But for this year, it's just we're not gonna expend any money out of it. We're in a savings period. CBG fund, we don't have a grant, so that there's nothing going on there this year. The ETSB account, which is Fund 14, has been inactive because the Ike 911 Center took over its function several years ago. We've had some money trapped in that account related to the old ETSB, and it can only be spent on certain public safety related items. Luckily, we have, I wouldn't say demand, we need some radios, we need some body worn cameras. There's things related to the fire and police department that will qualify to be paid for with these funds, and we want to go ahead and use those funds now that we have a way to actually access them. Roosevelt and 17th Avenue near Avenue TIF. I'm going to leave these on here this year, next year, then they will fall away. There's nothing budgeted in them because they're now closed. And I just, when they get off, we're a couple years off and nobody asks any questions, I'll just leave them off in the future. 19th Avenue TIF is the Chase, where the Chase is up here on 19th and 17th. Still paying the developer agreement. Whatever comes into that TIF basically goes out to cover the costs on with the developer agreement. Debt service, other than the annual rollover bond, it's just a normal year for us. We do our rollover bond and we pay down the only debt that we have, which is the 2018 capital bond, which was used for this building. So it's kind of like a mortgage in a way, or home improvement loan. So we will be making those payments, and that's about it. Capital projects, I kind of touched on in the opening here. We have a new ambulance and power cot for the fire department. We've got some work going on at the 17th and Lexington, and we've talked about all the big ones. There are some purchases in there of stuff other than projects. We're looking to buy a new piece of machinery for Public Works, as the mayor had alluded to help train our people to do some of the work in-house so that we don't have to pay someone else to do it. And the last one is the Water and Sewer Fund, which is pretty much at a break-even point this year. But what I tell everybody every year is we are very conservative here and safe, and we always budget for water main breakage. And if the water main breakage is low, it goes into surplus. If we have a crazy year like what we used to have, we could eat through all of it. But there is a good $550,000 in this budget to cover any emergency main breakage. Okay, any questions on that? Hearing none, I'll move forward. So this is related to the general fund, and this is a breakdown by where our money's coming from. You see our property taxes are going to generate about 7.1. The other taxes are going to be 5.8, with the majority of that being sales tax. Intergovernmental, which includes our share of the state of Illinois' income tax, utility tax, the personal property replacement tax, is went down a little. You can see it was 3.8 last year, 2.7 this year. That whole decrease can pretty much be attributed to the PPRT, which is the personal property tax replacement. There has been some decrease in the utility taxes, primarily the phone utility taxes, and it's a trend that's been going on for years, and I think what it is people are giving up their landlines. But God bless those that still have them and are still paying that tax. We have license permits and fees with a slight increase. Utility taxes, which I just mentioned, there are the ones that have been going down. Fines and forfeitures, I base the estimate based upon what we got last year. That fluctuates just like anything else. You can't force people to break the law. And actually, if you're doing a good job, you're going to write less tickets. You're going to do less enforcement. So, you know, it's kind of, you've got to just kind of take a feel, okay, what happened last year? What are we going to do this year? And then the others, there's a bunch of miscellaneous items, and video gaming are the, I'm sorry, there is one I should talk about. Video gaming, it's just a continuation. It keeps getting better every year. I guess people are trying to get rich with the slot machines. And the other big increase is, see, you know, I wonder if they think every time that they put a dollar bill in one of those things that part of it's coming to us. I'm sorry, let the secret out. The other increase there is investment income. Just because it's not like we have much larger balances, the balances have kind of stayed relatively the same. We're just earning a lot more interest by having our money in the bank today than we did in the years past. I mean, a few years ago, if we got to 2,000, that was good, and we might get to 100,000 this year. So very, very, very good for us, but bad for people that want to buy a home or anything else. And this stuff is all macro related. There's not a lot we do to control it. We just are affected by what's going on in the economy. All right, next. Dave, I knew I should have left it at 15. You can see it? Okay. All right, so we have what the expenses are in each fund by year here for the last 4 years. And you can see that the general fund's expenses are increasing. It's kind of matching our revenue. As our revenue goes up, we're finding ways to spend it. The garbage fund's revenues are down significantly, but that's a one-off item. We had put the grant for the flood control program in there last year, and in retrospect, it probably belongs in the water department. So we did not put it in there, and we moved it to another department. Motor fuel, the expenses will be nothing hardly this year because we have no new projects. Same with the CDBG, in both of the first two TIFs. The emergency telephone system is the one I was talking about a minute ago. We're going to use the money that's in there to purchase some body-worn cameras, some related subscription services that go with that. Okay. Roosevelt and 17th. is our new TIF, which has actually had quite a few things. It started out of the gate very well with generating increment. And you will see, well, I'll talk about this more later down the road. A lot of our TIFs, it was like year 4 or 5 before we actually got any money. But because of the way this one was created and the timing of the building of the senior living facility over there, there was a big jump in property right after it was created, which is actually creating money for the TIF, which we'll be able to use to do future projects east of 17th Avenue. What else do we want to talk about there? Debt service, I had mentioned. The only thing we've got there is payments of our bonds and interest. The capital projects, we've talked about that. There's some equipment purchases. We have grant money to finish the Public Works facility in there. I'm trying to think of anything that I haven't talked about already. We talked about the equipment, we talked about the projects and the Public Works facility. That's pretty much it. What you need to know is some of that expenditure is being offset with the grant money coming in. All right. The Water and Sewer Fund is, the biggest expense in that is the cost of our water. But it also picks up all the capital improvements to the water system and all the emergency repairs to the water system. So that's, as I was saying earlier, that number looks really big, but a lot of times we don't end up spending near that amount, especially since we don't have the really cold winters where everything freezes and breaks. So if we can keep in this weather pattern, we might come out good on that. The pension fund is not really, we don't vote on that here. Each pension has its own board, their own budget. We just incorporate their numbers into here, and we're reported as the village. But so we don't approve their expenses, and they do their own revenue projections, but this is the numbers that were provided for us. Okay? If you want to know those same expenses by category, it's pretty much the same story. Personal services and employee benefits by far are our largest expenses. It's salaries, wages, insurance. Of the $20 million, 15 of it is covering the wages of the employees and all their benefits. Contractual services is a myriad of things that are done at the village. And one of the things I wanted to bring up is we are really making an attempt, even though you see that there's not a big rise there, we're making an attempt to bring technology into the village to make things more efficient and make things work better for everyone, from the resident up. And hopefully we'll be able to use some of these services. Some of them are subscription-based, some of them we have to buy software to monitor our water system, to monitor our billing, to processing our invoices in a more efficient manner. And in the long run, it'll save us money because we won't have the big surprises. Commodities, it's up just like everything else in the world. It's inflation. Capital outlays down a little bit, and other is also down, and I'm going to be honest with you, I forgot why it was down. In our other special revenue funds, there aren't a lot of personal services. There is pretty much not much to say about it. So that's our, the reason it's down is This picks up those funds like the CDBG, the other TIFs, where there's no activity this year. So there's a lot of non-activity within the fund itself. So that group overall is got a large decrease, mainly because the underlying funds that create that group are not being used this year. Our debt service fund, as you can see, is staying right on course with prior years. And as long as we keep doing what we're doing, we're just paying down our debt. And hopefully that will help us in the long run. The Capital Projects Fund. Oh, there is one thing I should be saying about these funds. Most of these funds are funded by the general fund. I mean, some of them, like the MFT and the TIFs, have their own taxes that are revenues for those funds. But like the Capital Improvement Fund, IMRF, the village has to put money in those funds to pay the expenses that are related to it. It's like IMRF has also got our Social Security, FUTA, FICA taxes in there. For that to be paid, there's not a property tax source for it. The source for those payments is coming out of the general fund. We transfer that money in there. Other funds, like the TIFs, have their own increment and their own property taxes. But the general fund, in many cases, is transferring fund money to the other funds, like the debt service fund, to make the debt payments. And then the pension funds, that's the projected payments out of the fund of the two funds over the next year. So overall, we're looking at about $32,842,827 paid out from all the different activities. And I'm flipping ring here without moving this up here, so I know you guys can't read this, but I'm going to do it anyway. Okay, so the general fund is the most important fund for the village. It's the one we need to keep our eye on and monitor very closely. We've talked where these revenues are coming from, and I feel like we did this slide already. I think it's a duplicate slide. It's in a different format, but it's the same stuff. So unless anyone has any questions, I'm just going to move on. This is the expenses in the general fund broken down by a department. And you can see that each department is responsible for a varying different amount of money that they expend to do their operations each year. The two biggest, of course, are fire and police, because fire and police have the most employees. The executive number is looking high right now. Now, part of it is that there was a ordinance to increase some of the elected officials' salaries, but the biggest portion of that is that's where we're putting the grant expenditures in the professional services within the executive department. So a lot of that money is going to be spent, and then we'll get the money back from the grant. So it's an artificially high number. Finance has also went up quite a bit this time, and that's because we're going to try to hire a couple new people, and we are also going to try to knock a couple audits out. So the audit cost is doubled, but will only happen if it actually happens. So we hope to spend that money. I'd like to spend more. I'd like to get them totally caught up, but we'll see how that goes. Building department, or municipal buildings, that is the money that's going to be spent for the building that we're in now. There are a couple things in here that I can think of right off the top of my head that have, even though it didn't increase from last year, there was bigger items last year. Those bigger items were replaced by, we need a new ventilation system for the shooting range over in the police department, and we have some long-term maintenance contracts in there. So even though there's things being done, even though the budget looks like it didn't change much, things that we did last year were taken out and they were replaced with the current needs. Okay, we talked about fire and police, public works. Public works is down a little bit, but I'm going to say that's primarily to the management of the employees and the way in which the public works director is bringing people in and training them or letting them go if they don't get their training done. So there's a tiered structure and a tiered pay rate for these folks, and it's saving us a little bit of money, but it's more importantly, it's letting us find people that we want to hire full-time for a long time. Okay, next. It's the same information, different format, breaks it down by department, what the service is in each department, whether it's personal services and employee benefits is directly related to your employees. Contractual services, specifically in the executive department, have increased drastically over the last couple years, and I'm noticing the header on this one didn't get changed. That should be 23 through 26, not 22 through 25. That's because that's where the grant money is flowing through. We're getting the grants, and we're getting work done for the village through outside contractors, and we're paying them through our professional services line. Village clerk, the only adjustment was the salary adjustment ordinance. Boards and commissions, we're going to have to do some more tests. We are still facing a challenge to hire policemen and firemen in the village. There are open positions now, and the lists have been exhausted again, so we've put more money in here to run new tests, to create new lists in the hopes of getting some new workers. Finance, what's the big increase? Salary with the two new employees. Contractual services, that increase is really related to some technology that we want to bring in regards to document retention and the AP process. Commodities. Commodities is up because the new employees will need computers. They will need, there's going to be an expense related to bringing on the new employees. Okay, moving right along to municipal building and grounds. Not a lot to talk about there. Building department actually went down a little bit in expenses this year, but it's pretty much tied to demand. But it's level in expenses. Fire. We've got an increase in both fire and police, and it's not just the current budgeted increase. In most of our contracts, we went through an extended period of time, one of them even up to 5 years, where we had to pay retro pay to these employees. But it also took their base rate up 5 times. So if they were getting 2% a year, that might work out to an 11 or 12% increase in their base pay. So those increases aren't just this year. In some cases, it's 2020 through this year, through 2026. In other cases, maybe it was only a few months. But it has the effect of it looking like they got a really big one-year increase, but that's not really what happened. They were underpaid for the prior, say, 5 years. Now, where the negotiations were complete, we owed them a retro payment, and they got made whole for those last 5 years. But when we're doing the budgeting, we're taking what their hourly salary is today, and that's why you're seeing some of these numbers jump so dramatically. And that's probably the best explanation for both of those departments of why the total increase in expense is related to the employees. Public Works, we just talked about that. In their case, personal services have went down, and that's been due to a change in the way they were hiring. Nothing else much changed. What about, if you look at all the departments, we went up by about $900,000 in total expenditures. And our revenues actually went up enough to offset that. So this is, the last page here is one that you guys asked me for, well, the people asked for last year. And this is what, and I'm going to put the caveat here. Until the auditors bless this is an estimate. So, but this is the estimated beginning fund balance in each of these funds, the revenues, expenses, and other financing that occurred in those funds, and what their fund balances are. Now, you can see that the general fund right now is, after this year, would have just a hair under $12 million. That is more than double what it was 8 years ago. So under this administration, the general fund balance health has went up 100%. Actually more than 100%. So we went from 5 million to 12 million. Some of the other funds there are some issues with. I will just go down them. Garbage, right now, we haven't had a garbage increase in years, but everything else is going up. Hauling costs, dumping fees. So what we're collecting off the current rate is covering our costs. It's more of a break-even service for us. The municipal retirement fund has a healthy fund balance because we transferred too much money into it in the last couple of years. Because we ended up we based our transfer on the expected employees, but then when we never hired the employees, now we've transferred money in there. So we might be able to go a couple years without putting any more money in there. All right, let's see, motor fuel. Like I had said, it's going to just grow with the money that we get this year. The fund balance is getting better. The CDBG fund is showing a $207,000 fund balance. And I'm going to look into that because that should be closer to zero. Emergency, the ETSB, which is Fund 14, will still have a little bit of money in it according to fund balance, but the actual cash is going to be depleted, hopefully this year, because to keep this fund open, we then have to have it audited. We have to do all these other things that is just kind of wasted money. I'd rather spend the money, close it, and get something for it instead of paying someone in to come in and basically look at what we're doing and then bless it. Going on down, Roosevelt, 17th Avenue TIF, those will, if there is a positive cash balance in those will have to be refunded now that the TIF districts are closed. 19th and specifically 21st and 17th have positive fund balances, mainly because 17th came out roaring in collections. We did not expect to get anything the first year, and we did. And plus, we had transferred money from one of the old TIFs to do some of the 17th Avenue work. debt service fund is showing a negative balance. I'm looking into this. It also should be one that should be always around zero. And what caught my eye about this today is that is the amount of money we transferred to the capital fund from the bond issuance about 2 years ago. So I'm thinking I've got some research to do there. Capital fund is got the largest negative balance, but that is also related to actually several things. Grant money that we're expending that we have not been reimbursed for yet, and money that needs to be traded with the, switched with the general fund. So some of that balance will be eaten up by, or some of the general fund's balance will be eaten up by the capital fund's negative balance. And the water and sewer fund still is maintaining a healthy balance. So overall, the funds that we have control of, we have about a $17.4 million surplus in. And I put this in here because someone asked last year, why does the financial statement say 28? Well, that's because in addition to the funds we have control of, there are the two pension funds, which are fiduciary funds, which someone else is taking care of. And we have balances in there. And the net fund balance, that's what taking all the assets and minus the liabilities in there, is another $10.7 million. And that's where the $28 million that you see in the audited financial statements come from. They're looking, where we concentrate mainly on the funds that we've been talking about. When the auditors come in, they look at it overall. They wrap the pensions and everything in to look at it village-wide. So when I did that and it came out to about 28.1, I was like, great, because that's what it was in the last audit. So my estimates should be very close. Are there any questions on any of that?
Yes, I have a question.
Sure.
Okay, so the general fund being the 11 million,
Mm-hmm.
do you take out of that and put it into like the capital projects fund where there's a deficit or a negative?
I did not propose to do that this year because we have, yes, and the short answer is yes, eventually we'll have to. But there's so many outstanding funds with, excuse me, with the state and our DECO grant, that when that money comes in, it's going to show up as revenue into that fund, and it's going to make that go down. And once that all clears out, if we still have a negative balance, yeah, we should, in one of the future budgets, just move money into there, make it zero. Come on, Judy, you're always picking on me. You got to have something.
Very well done, well prepared, informed.
Well, thank you.
I like the way it's broken down for everybody, easy to understand.
Well, just so you guys know, we have a few weeks before the hearing and then the eventual vote. Take your time, look through it line by line. If you got questions, please reach out to me. You know, if we have to make changes, we can make changes. But the more sets of eyes that go over this, the better. Because after a while, it just all swims around in your head. And it's always nice to have a fresh set of eyes look at it. And I would appreciate it if you would do that. All right. So let me know if you have any questions. And if we need to adjust, we will adjust.
Are there any other comments? Any questions? Well, I thank you, Director Hood, for a great presentation, and I'm very proud of the work that we're doing. And I'm very proud of each department staying on their budget. And I'm just proud of everyone. You know, instead of just to look at knowing that we're not in a deficit, and we're doing good. So I love you guys. Stay on track. May God continue to bless each and every one of you.
Trustee Shelby, because even as we go through the formalities on how we get to a budget, to come to this meeting to be public with it and be transparent, Trustee Shelby, she came up here twice, was it what's today, Wednesday? She's been up here every day this week, because today is Wednesday. But she's been up here, she was up here Monday, looking over the budget and had questions and identified some things that we needed to set eyes on, and we found some errors in the formulas. And then she came up here again yesterday to sit down with, briefly with me and with Director Hood as she went through. So she's intentional with making sure that the Board of Trustees are carrying out their fiduciary duties as it relates to the finances of the Village of Broadview. And it exhibits in the trustees that sit on the Finance Committee how intentional they are with looking at our monthly bills when we have our regular board meetings and asking questions of invoices and asking questions of the department heads. It just shows the leadership that they have with each other and how intentional they are with how we move the village forward in a practical way, but doing it with the residents and our business stakeholders in mind as well. So we're not selfish on how we look at the budget, but we wanted to make sure, my whole vision for this fiscal budget was making sure that we can impact human capital. Because if we don't have the bodies in the seat to do the job, to provide the services, that's when you're going to see a disruption in the service that we provide, because we don't have the actual bodies in seats. And we have to have competitive wages to make sure that we can retain the talent that we have. And I'm proud of everybody in every department, the talent that we do have, because good work, good help is hard to find, especially in an economy like this when there's a lot of moving pieces and people moving around, but we have a solid team here. So that's commendable to the leadership that we have in place with our department heads, making sure that their teams have all that tools and resources that they need to give them the training. Like in our Public Works Department, they're doing forestry, they're doing more, trying to get our team leveled up with water operator certifications. That's a big help to us. And we have to make sure that we have competitive wages to retain that talent where they don't get the certifications and then they leave and go somewhere else, and we've already trained them. So we do have a really good team in the building department, the inspectors. You know, I get a couple of complaints as it relates to property, and they are driving up and down the streets and through the alleys and all of that, identifying things. And it's just, you know, I was over at Lindop School earlier today, and I was talking to a couple of the residents, and they was just sharing some things with me with the upkeep of people property. You know, like the front porches are falling apart, and they've got manicured yards and stuff like that. And as the season change, they don't want to be the neighbor to say, I'm telling. And so we want to make sure that we can, you know, protect their identity as they bring things to us so that we can lay eyes on it, on how we can provide some type of assistance, maybe not a financial assistance, but come up with some solutions. We have our contractor list that's in the building department. They can come here 24 hours to find a list of contractors that are registered, licensed, and bonded with the Village of Broadview, where they can just identify to get those types of services. And as we get into the season of summer and grass is growing because it's raining, you know, just putting the message out to, you know, keep your grass cut and all of those things. So we do a really good job on how we look at the village and how we look at investing into our community. And when our community is solid, people want to come and invest in our community. And I think we do a really good job attracting new businesses to the village because of the due diligence of the Public Works Department, the Police Department with Public Safety, the Fire Department, our administration, and then working with our clerk on streamlining some best practices and helping out in wherever he can help out with us. So, Trustee Shelby, thank you for spending a lot of time with us these past couple of days.
Oh, yeah, that really wore me down. I mean, mentally, I was exhausted.
And she shared that with me. But it's intentional. We just didn't want the department heads to put a budget together, and then they share it with me, and then we do the formalities of executing and doing the public community meeting so that the public can have access to it. But also letting you all know that our trustees on the Finance Committee, they are engaged.
Yeah.
And they take their role very, very seriously in the work that they do, and we have to honor that because all trustees don't have the same value and the respect of the work that's required to move our village forward. So I just want to tell you all, thank you for your leadership, because it's valuable to us that we are able to put a budget together and then share what we came up with, and you having some input on what that looked like for the village at large. It's not an easy job.
Well, it's been a pleasure. And I thank the department heads for getting their receipts over for the expenditures. Keep up the good work.
Because she watched like a hawk. So with that's all I have, but thank you, Director Hood, for the presentation.
Thank you so much. Any other questions or concerns? Well, I'd like to get a motion to adjourn, if that's possible. Oh, just a moment.
Final thing, that the budget is on display for the public. It'll be posted on our website tomorrow, the proposed budget.
I don't know if it'll be, yeah, it's ready.
Okay, so the proposed budget will be on the website tomorrow for the public to review. A copy will be in the clerk's office. Those that may want a copy, you're able to come get a copy. And if you have any questions regarding the budget, please reach out to Director Hood to get all your questions answered and concerns. We do have a regular board meeting on Monday, April 21st, but we'll have a special board meeting to approve and pass the budget, whatever come out of the questions and comments from the public, on April 29th at 6:30. So we're looking to get the budget approved and passed by the Board of Trustees at that special board meeting at 6:30, so that we can go into our next fiscal budget May 1. That's it.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn. Second.
Okay, good night, everyone. Be safe.